Hi everyone, my name's Andrew, and this is Mabel's Fables from the Mabel Tainter in Menominee, Wisconsin. Today, we're going to read a fairy tale by Hans Christian Andersen. Today's fairy tale is called The Emperor's New Clothes. Many years ago, there was an emperor who was so mad about fashionable new clothes that he spent all his money on dressing up. He never inspected his army or went to the theater or drove through the countryside unless he had a new outfit to show off. He had different clothes for every hour of the day, and at any time when you might say of another king, "His Majesty is in the council chamber," you could always say of him, "The emperor's in his dressing room." The emperor's city was a hive of activity, and there were always strangers coming and going. One day, a pair of swindlers turned up, claiming to be weavers. Their cloth, they boasted, was not just of the finest quality and design, but had the virtue of being invisible to anyone who was stupid or not fit to hold his job. "What wonderful cloth," thought the emperor. "If I wore it, I would be able to find out which of my courtiers are unfit for their post, and also be able to tell the clever ones from the stupid. Yes, I must have a suit made at once." He handed over a large sum of money to the swindlers so that they could start work straight away. So the swindlers set up a loom and pretended to be weaving, though in fact there was nothing on their loom at all. They coolly demanded the finest silks and costliest gold thread, which they stuffed into their own pockets, and then carried on working as the empty loom into the night. "I wonder how they're getting on with my cloth," thought the emperor. But there was one thing which made him feel uneasy, and that was that a man who was stupid or unfit for his job would not be able to see the cloth. Not that he had anything to fear, but all the same, he thought it might be best to send someone else first to see how things were going. Everyone in the city had heard about the special virtue of the cloth, and they were all agog to find out how stupid or incompetent their friends were. "I will send my honest old prime minister to the weavers," thought the emperor. "He'll be the best judge of the cloth, for he's got brains and he's good at his job." So the honest old prime minister went to the room where the two swindlers were working away. "Good Lord," thought the old man as he goggled into the empty room, "I can't see a thing." But he kept it to himself. The swindlers begged him to be so good as to come close to tell them what he thought of the cloth. "Do you like the design?" They pointed to the empty loom. But though the poor man thought he stared and couldn't see a thing, he declared, "Oh dear," he thought, "does this mean I am stupid? I never had an inkling, and no one else must either. Or perhaps I am unfit for my job. Whatever, no one must find out that I cannot see the cloth." "Now, do you like it or not?" asked one of the weavers. "Oh, it's charming, absolutely delightful," said the old prime minister, peering through his spectacles. "What a gorgeous pattern! Oh, I shall tell the emperor that I am most pleased with it." "Oh, you are too kind," said the swindlers. And then they described the pattern in detail, and the old prime minister listened carefully so that he could repeat it to the emperor, which he duly did. The swindlers now asked for money to buy silk and gold threads in order to finish the cloth. But it all went straight into their own pockets. Not a single thread was put on the loom. They just carried on weaving air. Before long, the emperor sent his second official to see how the work was progressing and find out when the cloth would be ready. The same thing happened to him as to the prime minister. No matter how hard he looked, he could not see anything on that empty loom. "It's really beautiful, isn't it?" said one of the swindlers. "I'm not stupid," thought the official, "so I must be unfit for my job. If people found out, I would be a laughingstock." So he too praised the material which he couldn't see, and said how pleased he was with its subtle shades and beautiful design. "It's quite exquisite," he told the emperor. The wonderful material was the talk of the town. At last, the emperor decided he must go see it for himself while it was still on the loom. He took along a number of courtiers, including 2 honest officials who said they had already described the cloth, to see the 2 swindlers working busy at their loom. "Isn't it magnifique?" said the 2 officials. "Just look at the pattern, Your Majesty," as they pointed to the empty loom, sure that everyone could see the cloth. "What's this?" thought the emperor. "I can't see anything. Am I stupid? Am I unfit to be the emperor? This is too awful for words." "Oh, it's wonderful," he said. "It is everything I hoped for." And he gave a satisfied nod at the empty loom. He wasn't going to admit he couldn't see anything. All the others who were there were in the same boat. They could see nothing, but they said to the emperor, "Oh, it's wonderful." They told him as they should have some cloth made from the magnificent material in time to wear it at the great procession that was soon to take place. Magnificent, wonderful, superb were all the words on everyone's lips. They were all delighted. The emperor gave each of the swindlers a knighthood and a medal to wear in his buttonhole as the Knights of the Loom. The swindlers sat up all night before the procession with more than 16 candles burning so that people could see how hard they were working. They pretended to take the cloth off the loom, make cuts in the air with huge scissors, and sewed with needles that had no thread, and finally announced, "Look, the emperor's clothes are ready." The emperor came with his courtiers, and the weavers held out their arms as if they were carrying something, and said, "Here are the trousers, here is the jacket, here is the cloak," and so on. The whole suit is as light as a spider's web. You'll feel it as if you've got nothing on. That's the beauty of the cloth. "Yes, indeed," said all the courtiers, but they couldn't see anything, for there was nothing to see. "If your Majesty would graciously take off the clothes you are wearing, we shall think it a privilege to help you into the new ones in front of the great mirror." So the emperor took off all of his clothes, and the swindlers went through the motions of fitting him with his new suit, pretending to fasten and train around his waist. The emperor turned this way and that way, peering into the mirror. "How elegant Your Majesty looks! What a perfect fit!" everyone exclaimed. "What a triumph!" Then the master of ceremonies announced, "The canopy, which will be carried above Your Majesty in the procession, is waiting outside." "I'm ready to go," said the emperor. "See how well my new clothes fit." And as he did a final twirl in front of the mirror, pretending to admire his fine clothes, the chamberlains, who were to carry the emperor's train, fumbled on the floor looking for it. They didn't dare admit that they couldn't see anything, so they pretended to pick up the train, and they walked and they held their hands in the air as if they were carrying it. So the emperor marched in procession under the beautiful canopy, and all the people lining the streets or standing at the windows exclaimed, "Oh, the emperor's new clothes are the best he's ever had. What a perfect fit. And just look at the train, for no one wanted people to think that he couldn't see anything and was a fool or unfit for their job. Never had the emperor's clothes been such a success. But he hasn't got anything on, said a little child. Listen to that little innocent, said his father. But the whispers passed through the crowd. He hasn't got anything on. There's a little child who says he hasn't got anything on. And at last the people shouted with one voice, he hasn't got anything on. The emperor had the uncomfortable feeling that they were right. But he thought, I must go on with it for now. So he drew himself up to his full height and walked proudly on as the chamberlains walked behind him, carrying a train that wasn't even there. That's our story for today, everyone. Have a good day.